Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Arrow. So the main part of this episode was essentially the team dealing with the warheads being nuclear missiles being launched and trying to take them down, but it's a little too much for even Felicity to do, so they basically made the decision to get in contact with her dad. It's like, I mean, he's not really the most trustworthy person, but he's the only one that he's like the best hacker she knows, so it's like, I'm not saying that we should trust him, it's that we need to, because he's the only one that can help us in this situation. But at the same time, Dark and his people are looking for him too, because they know him to be like the only one that could stop them, so they need to kind of remove him from the equation. But this episode had many different layers to it, and it's had multiple things to it. For one, really it's kind of like a very like relationships with each character. It's like Felicity and her dad's relationship, because her dad's struggling to like, he's like trying to fix things with her. It's like, I'm not the monster you think I am. I may be a criminal, but I'm not a monster. I might have done some, bad things here and there, but not that bad. And like, it kind of comes up, because he's kind of talking to Oliver / Green Arrow. Obviously he doesn't know it's Oliver, but talks to him about, and Oliver brings up the fact is like, oh, you're saying all this stuff to me that you're trying to be, that you're not a bad guy. He's like, say this to your daughter. He's like, I don't really know how to. He talks about the fact is he doesn't know how to really be a father to her. He's like, he's stuck between being kind of the criminal / activist, I guess, the criminal and also the father. And it's just like, he's like talking from his own experience. Oliver's like, you can't be both. It's like at the end of it, you have to choose, because as with his situation, he learned that you can't have both. I mean, it's like, and that's something I'm curious about. Like in the comic books, does Oliver ever find a balance to that? I feel like even Batman struggles with finding a balance. Like, I mean, that's kind of a big thing for superheroes in general, especially ones with secret identities, is finding that balance. But it's like, I'm not sure about Green Arrow, like whether he really struggles with that in the comic books or not. But it's like, I mean, it's a pretty obvious thing for him in the series, because he's like struggling to be Oliver Queen and at the same time being Green Arrow. I mean, it was a big struggle even, being the vigilante back then. So it's just like even more so now, because he's a hero that's kind of like out there for all the world to see, to be a symbol of hope. So, it kind of puts him even more in the light, and it's like more Green Arrow is needed more than Oliver Queen is. And it's just like being becoming who he was on Lian Yu and being Green Arrow now, all that, it kind of doesn't leave room for just a normal life for Oliver. So I don't know, it's just kind of something that he kind of put in perspective for her dad. You also had the whole Lila and Diggle situation, with the fact that Diggle lied to her. Oliver like had a conversation with her. He's like, "But you never told me anything about like killing Andy out of self-defense." And Diggle didn't lie to him. He was like, "I didn't. I couldn't tell Lila the truth. I couldn't have her look at me differently." He's like, "You can't lie to her." And Diggle was like, "Really? I'm getting advice from you, the man who constantly lies?" And he's like, yeah, because I lie so much and I saw how it ruined my relationship, I don't want you to do the same thing to yours. Like, your wife deserves better than you to lie on her, because you, in general, are a better person than me, like, Diggle. Like, you weren't, you don't keep secrets from people. You don't keep people in the dark like I do. You don't kind of keep people at a distance like I do. So it's like, you're better than me, so talk to her. It didn't come up in the episode, but maybe that will eventually. Because I was wondering like how Diggle was going to handle that situation. Because I mean, he did outright lie to Lila about how that situation went down. But like I said, it's understandable though, because it's like he didn't want Lila to look at him like as like in a different way, like look at him as a monster, like that he was a man, he killed his own brother just out of pure vengeance, which obviously that played a role, but it was also to protect his family too. He didn't have a choice, because Andy would have come after them again, and there's no telling whether it actually have an okay ending like it did. Like, okay, luckily Lila and Sarah were safe, but it's like, that's this time, what about next time? So there was that. And there's also Malcolm and Thea, because obviously the whole, I don't know why it didn't cross my mind. That's like, of course he, brought Alex there. Basically that was Mrs. Dark's idea, just to kind of, keep him in line, to make sure he kind of doesn't turn on them. but they definitely wanted him on their side because it's like, okay, for Malcolm's sake, it's like it can kind of get Thea to come there. Which something that never crossed my mind that came up in this episode because Malcolm brings it up. The fact of the matter is his whole plan for, the earthquake machine in season 1 to Star City. I mean, granted at the time Starling City, but it's like his plan back then is very similar to what Genesis is. Obviously Genesis is on a much bigger scale. He kind of points it out. And it's like, I honestly never put two and two together because I'm an idiot. But it's like, they both, because I mean, obviously what happened to his wife and just being sick of the way parts of Starling City were, that he wanted to destroy them so it could be rebuilt and become a better place. I mean, that's kind of the mentality they have from the world. Is like, the world has become a disgusting, dark place and it needs to be destroyed so it can be kind of brought back. It's kind of that maniacal, that misguided notion of like, we're doing a good thing. We're wiping out the world so we can build it back up and create kind of like almost like a utopia, build a world back, learn from the mistakes that the world has created now, just wipe that out and rebuild and take from those mistakes. Like, oh, just don't repeat what happened. Then it's very misguided because it's like, because the fact of the matter is you're only bringing in those who you consider worthy of bringing into the new world. It's like, what makes any of those people who are, in that little safe, that dome, what makes any of their lives any more important than the billions of other lives that are going to die because you're like, yeah, let's wipe the world clean. So, and we also had Anarchy popping up in this episode looking for revenge against Dark for, Dark doing what he did to him. Which basically led to an interesting confrontation between him and Thea, where it's like Thea basically acknowledged who she was because he was like, oh, I didn't recognize you without all that red on. It's just like, it's basically talking about the fact is that Thea doesn't have to do what she does. Like, she's not a pawn, she's a queen. She doesn't need a man by her side telling her what to do. That's kind of what he was kind of trying to take Alex out of the equation, because it's like, kind of Alex is holding you back from being the potential that you could be. Which, like I said, that line I just said about her being a queen, I really like that line. It's just like, it was a nice line. It's like, you could call it corny, but I was like, oh, not a pawn, you're a queen because your name's Queen. It's like, I know you get it, but it's just like, to me, that like resonated. I was like, oh, that was a good line. Like, most people probably wouldn't feel the same way, but that's just how I felt about it. Question, is Alex dead? Like, obviously he got electrocuted and she was like, I'm sorry. So I don't know whether he's dead or not. I feel like if he was dead, she'd be a little more torn up. But it seems like she was just probably saying she's sorry because he was knocked out. Because granted, he saw the way she was handling herself, so he does now know that Thea is kind of not a normal girl, if he is still alive. Like I said, kind of question that. I mean, I think he's most likely is. He just got knocked out. She, like I said, probably be more torn up if that wasn't the case. Another thing that came up in this episode, I was kind of like on the fence about. I didn't really, was the whole Dawn and Lance situation. Basically, Lance was signing an alpha David because basically admitting that he didn't know that Laurel was the Black Canary, because basically Black Canary was a superhero who can kind of handle herself. Yeah. People say what they want about that whole situation. About like, oh, Laurel can't really, oh yeah, she can handle herself, quotation marks around it, blah, 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 blah. Laurel / Black Canary hate just because of like, oh, she didn't really do much, blah, 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 shut up. That's how I feel about it. Anytime anyone says anything, it's like, it's just like, I don't know. I'm weird. I'm just like, blah, 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 shut up. The character's fine. She was fine. Whatever. Because I'm going to take the time to say people bagged on that character too much. I didn't like the fact that people bagged on that character too much. It's like, she did a fine job. It's not her fault she wasn't nearly as... Literally, Sarah and Oliver had years to hone their crafts. It's like, she didn't have that luxury. He was trained in a dangerous environment, Leah and you, plus trained by Argus to like torture people, and Sarah was trained by a League of Assassins, the League of Assassins. So it's kind of like, what do you expect? Especially because she never really kept up with her training. Because there was the guy who taught her how to fight. Apparently he was even though we haven't seen him for a while, apparently he was a comic book hero. I don't remember what hero he is, but there was some hero he is. Maybe we'll see him later on in the series, but we haven't seen him like for a long while. But essentially, I think it was the episode he was getting framed up for all those drug dealers dying or whatever. But that was like the last time we saw Laurel really train. Well, no, granted, she started training more and more with Oliver. I mean, kind of when he was training with her and Diggle. So, but still, That was kind of a one-off thing. It wasn't like a constant thing all the time. At least I don't think so. Nevertheless, moving on. Essentially saying he didn't know that she was the Black Canary, that Lance didn't know about her being a Black Canary, and because if he knew about her being a superhero, it's like, oh, she's a superhero, she can handle herself. So it kind of nullifies the fact is that he was like, oh, I work with Dark trying to protect my daughter. It was basically a way to get him to keep his job. And Don was kind of like, don't go along with it. It's a lie. It's like, to me, I was like, why is that such a big deal to you? It's like, I guess, granted, yeah, it's lying and dishonest, but it's like, he's trying to keep his badge. It's like, he needs to stay a cop because it's like, you know, he can do much more good as a cop because there's no guarantee he's going to be able to keep his badge if he tells the truth. That's just how I was looking at it. I was like, I mean, but maybe that's just because I'm me. I kind of have a warped sense of things. It's like, I kind of have that sense of like, do whatever it takes to kind of get the job done. Sometimes in some situations, I'm like, if you have to lie about it, then lie about it. But I guess like, I don't know, he kind of made her realize it's not a good thing to kind of lie in a situation like that. Kind of be proud of the fact is that you were trying to protect your daughter and you knew that she was the Black Canary and you were proud of her every day. So I guess that's the reason why it's kind of like basically by saying like he didn't know she was the Black Canary, it's kind of like saying like, oh, like, you know, it wasn't him showing how much, you know, how proud of her he was, I guess. In some way, it was kind of dishonoring her memory in a sense. I don't know. That's how I like to interpret it. I mean, granted, he changes his mind about the whole Alpha David situation. So, and there was also the situation with Dawn and Felicity when they kind of had that hugging moment where she was, I mean, after she explained the fact is like, oh, that cabin that her dad was most likely hiding out, like like there's a cabin that was connected to them, and that, you know, the cabin he was hiding out, that basically it was there that they listened to music and drink wine and ended up like going at it. She's like, oh, he could always go for a very long time. It's most likely the place where you can see and you could just see the just disgust on Felicity's face, like, shut up, mom, just stop. But basically giving her a hug, and the Dawn's like, why, what's that for? She's like, I hope you never have to find out why, you know, hugging her because not telling, you know, because they have less than 20 hours until those missiles launch and basically destroy the world. And basically something I've just kind of like, we still haven't ever seen is like an interaction between Dawn and her dad, the calculator. It's like we haven't seen that yet. You know, because in this regard, we heard her talking about him in a more positive way. She's never really talked about him at all, you know, when her dad's come up as a subject. But it's like, this is her talking about him in a more positive, like, it's like we haven't actually seen an interaction between them. Maybe, hopefully we'll get that next episode. I think that'd be kind of interesting to see that whole dynamic, especially because I thought something else was going to pop up when basically Lance was getting them out of there after they stole that device from Palmer Tech, which I was like, oh my god, like, because they fired her because basically she wanted to kind of like, basically the chip she used, the implant to, you know, let her walk again, she basically kind of wanted to make it much more accessible to people. So basically Palmer Tech wasn't going to make a huge profit off of it. So basically her board members want to talk to her about it, but she's caught up with trying to save the world. Can't really tell people that though. She's kind of like, it's important. They're like, oh, I hope it's worth it. End up firing her for it. And it's just like, you SOPs. And you can kind of tell the guy who fired her, like from a distance, you can kind of tell he was smiling, like he's like, oh, I'm sorry it ended this way. It's like, no, you're not. You jerk. She's trying to save your sorry asses, and this is the thing she gets. Like, I mean, she's done so much for this company, and you're going to do this to her. It's like, you guys suck. But I did like the fact is that basically the device that they needed to help deal with the missiles, and Felicity's like, oh wait, so we're going to help my dad. So we're going to help my dad steal from me again. And they're like, well, none of that stuff belongs to you anymore. She's like, yeah, you're right. And truth be told is that the situation, like when it was all said and done, they would have stopped most of the missiles except for the one that was coming here to the United States. Did not end the way I thought it was going to. It's like, okay, they end up stopping the missile it's like, no, there was no way of stopping the missile in the amount of time they had. What Felicity ended up doing was diverting it to another town, and it's ended up making contact and killing people. And like Felicity's like, how many people? It was like tens of thousands, but Lila was like, in comparison, it's like it could have been, I think it was like a million or millions of people. Just like many more people would have died. She hadn't. But and the sad thing is that's something Felicity's gonna have to live with because he made that like quick decision to like try and divert the missile. You're kind of like, well, was there no chance to? I mean, thinking, at the time there probably wasn't enough time or enough, to recalculate it to go to, like they probably couldn't, because basically what they had to do was move essentially the GPS of where it was going to hit. So basically move it over some so that basically it ended up hitting the wrong target. It's like maybe you could have aimed for a body of water, which I thought was what was going to happen. It was like, nope, it hits a town and kills tens of thousands of people. I was like, I did not expect that to happen. It's like, I guess because it's kind of like the same situation in like every season of Arrow. It's like, oh, something big goes down, like season 1, the earthquake. Plenty of people died in that. Season 2, when Slade and his people attacked the town, plenty of people died there too. Just Asteroid and his fiance, for example. It was just like, so not everything's going to have that clean cut good ending. So that kind of that just kind of took me by surprise. And we also had something that it didn't register on my brain. The fact is that we've seen Ryder using the what is it, totem? Is that what it is? I forgot. The statue thing he draws the power from the same one that Dark's using. That his eyes are glowing yellow, because I was stupid. I was like, oh yeah, obviously Oliver's channeling the good magic, so his eyes are yellow. Not remembering the fact is that Ryder's eyes are glowing yellow too, because we had the lady that's with Oliver. I still am not getting her name. I'm ashamed of myself after all this time. Like they got away from Ryder because basically, Oliver was staying behind to kind of take care of them. I mean, like kill Ryder, but obviously that's going to be a lot harder with him being all superpowered and everything. And they ran away with the idol. That's the word. Okay. Stupid. I'm sorry, but they ran away with the idol. But as they were running, it was kind of affecting her. And last thing we see is her eyes glowing yellow. Basically, we got a glimpse of it last episode when it was kind of showing like all this stuff. When Oliver was kind of fighting the darkness inside of him, trying to channel the light. That was one of the images we saw, was her with her eyes glowing yellow. And I was like, oh, that's her channeling good magic. It's like, nope, that's just what channeling magic looks like in this universe. I mean, specifically in Arrow, when you channel magic, your eyes glow yellow like that. I wonder, is it going to be like that for everyone? Because, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not that familiar with a lot of... I mean, the only other person, like, quote-unquote magic that I'm familiar with is Raven. And her, like, I don't know if that's... and that's basing on my knowledge of, like, the Teen Titans cartoon. It's like her eyes will glow kind of like, kind of like that white color as she, like, channels, like, her magic. So it's like, is it just going to be straight across the board all magic? It's like your eyes are colored like that, or is it specifically these tied to these idols or something like that? I know it's something stupid, it's just something that was in my mind. But at the very end of the episode, we saw Dark channeling all the energy from those tens of thousands of people that died. So he's basically supercharged, and standing in front of him is Oliver and Diggle. Really quickly, because it's something I glazed over. I kept trying to keep it in the back of my mind to bring up once I was done talking. Was favorite joke of the episode. Essentially, like Lila was talking to the president. It's like, okay, the president is asking like, okay, so basically, the world is depending on a criminal, an IT girl, and two guys dressed up in Halloween costumes, and they're walking away. Oliver's like, it's not a Halloween costume. It's like you're wearing armor. You're a superhero, and it's just like to have someone just essentially shit on you and just be like, oh, you're dressing up for Halloween, huh? Which is, I feel like that's always the joke with superheroes, and it's like always have a bad guy be like, oh, ain't it a little early for Halloween or a little late for Halloween? That obviously, if you're dressed like that, it's that's always, I feel like that's always the kind of superhero joke. It's like, oh, dressing up for Halloween type of thing. I don't know, I liked it. But this is like the third to last episode, so like I think at this point in time it is on par with Flash, because Flash has 2 episodes left this season. I'm guessing same thing for Arrow too now. So time's clicking down. So it's like, all the missiles were stopped except for the one that went off, and Dark is now supercharged. So it's like, what are we going to do? How is this whole thing going to go down? I did see a preview of next episode. It seems like they're tracking down Thea, so they're going to that dome next episode to deal with that. But it's like, will things kind of work out in their favor? Like I said, won't know till next episode. So, but that's really all I wanted to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.